Special episode, unboxing a recent costume donation. Today's a very special episode of unboxing hat boxes because we're not actually going to unbox a hat box today. This week I received a donation of hats and millinery related things from one of our alumni of the MFA program at Chapel Hill, Candy McClernand. She graduated some years ago with her MFA, and at that time was very interested in doing millinery as a component of the freelance career that she envisioned for herself. In the intervening time, she's become the creative director at Wonderflix World. She also recently moved to a house out on the coast of North Carolina, and she wanted to donate some of the things from her workroom in the house here in Durham, just to downsize before going out there and recognizing that millinery was something she was doing less of. She wanted to donate this stuff to the graduate program and the costume archive and Playmakers Repertory Company. So I received this donation from her this week, and I sort of know what it is in that she told me it's millinery supplies and hats, but I haven't opened these or gone through them, so I thought we could do it together. I'd like to start with this box because I think it has fewer things in it than the bag, which is stuffed full of hats and maybe hat making materials. It's heavy on this end, lightweight on this end. It's just a box that was mailed to, it's addressed to her husband at their old address, so there's nothing special about that. All right. Well, the first thing in here that is worth looking at is this grocery bag full of straw braid for making spiral straw hats. This is a fairly nice straw braid. It's not one of the really skinny ones that you have to sew forever to create any kind of shape. It's also not one of the plastic ones. It's natural straw, and it'll make a nice project for someone who wants to explore spiral construction. And in fact, perhaps that'll be me, because I have been seeing a lot of interesting spiral straw hats on some of the accounts that I follow on Instagram of other theatrical and historical milliners, and have been thinking that I'd like to explore that more than I have in the past. I have made 3 hats from spiral braid, and more frequently, because I'm a theatrical milliner, I've taken existing spiral construction hats and unspiraled parts of them and reassembled them into new shapes. I did a whole set of hats that way for My Fair Lady for the Ascot scene. Anyway, there's only one other thing in this box. And that's this. So this is a tool called a Flange Stand, and you use it in blocking hats that have a crown block and a brim block. See, it's got these holes here. I have one of these made by someone who makes hatting tools professionally, and there are metal pegs that are seated down in these holes. I suspect that this is one that maybe Candy or her husband made themselves, because it has these holes drilled for you to stick a peg in there to then be able to situate your brim block on top of it. I don't have a brim block here to show you, but there are lots of good videos on YouTube. So you can search on Flange Stand and see someone demonstrating how to use this. But This is a nice addition to our blocking equipment collection at UNC Chapel Hill and Playmakers Repertory Company. So thanks for this, Candy. If this was all that you brought me, this would be a great donation. But that's not the entirety of the donation. We have this whole other bag of hats here. And that's this. It's a tote bag from NPR. There's lots of hats in here. Oh, that's cute. So the first one here is this black velour felt hat, mid-century, with this interesting ornament of a quill that's not a feather at all, and then there's this beaded spiraled curlicue that is attached to it. I would wear this. I have to go somewhere this afternoon. Maybe I'll wear this. It's really cute. There's evidence that there was a label in this hat, but it's not here anymore. There's our second hat, which is a cream felt little blocked mid-century percher hat. It has some veil ornament on it here. The veiling has some holes in it, as is often the case with hats that are this old. So if a designer wanted to use this hat in a show, I'd either remove or replace this veiling. And there's these little felt leaves that are adorned with rhinestones surrounding the side band of this hat. Not all the way around, it's not like a circlet, it's more like a laurel wreath of felt leaves mounted to a hat. Oh, and there's some weird black veiling inside of here too. I think that's just a piece that maybe came off of another hat in there. See, yucky. But not so yucky, I'm not gonna put this on my head. Cream's not really my thing. Let's see what else. Whatever this is, it feels nice. Oh. Trying to determine if that's actual fur or if it's a felt hat body that's like a melacine, like a shaggy felt. No, I believe this is actual fur because on the inside here, let's see, we have two labels. One says Mousse HB made in France and the other says Woodley, New York. And the construction of this hat is really interesting because it's lined on the inside with lace. There's a little white flange of a velvet ribbon, and then there's a satin brim. That's cute. It's in very good condition for a hat that's probably mid-20th century. I'm not sure, but it feels like it might be rabbit fur that this is constructed of. There's not any furrier seams in there though. And oh, here, this is what that yucky black veiling came off of. It's shredded, and this is not a very good hat. This is one that I would probably donate to Goodwill because it's buckram with some fabric over it, and it hasn't been reinforced with wire anywhere, so it's crushed, and it's not a very remarkable style. It's just a plain pillbox with a little bow on the back and a wad of ripped up black veiling. Oh, and on the interior, there's no maker's mark, and the way that it's made makes me think that it was created by a home milliner from a pattern. And the cover fabric is like a 70s double knit. Oh, This hat was one that Candy made in millinery class. She found some information about knitting wool yarn and then felting it, and she wanted to try that. And so she knitted a hat body and then blocked this from it, and it has this little applied frill of another felted piece of knit. And it's got her label inside of it. An original by Candy McLernan. That's what it says in there. And it's got a little white bow at what she intends the back to be. Candy's head is smaller than mine, so this is not going to fit me too well. I don't believe I'd wear it like that. I think I would wear it like this. And I remember when she made this hat and presented it for this project, there was a antique gold brooch that she pinned onto it to cover this join between the hat itself and the frill that is now gone. I don't know if that was a family heirloom brooch or something that belonged to Playmakers that she took off of it after she presented it. This is an excellent hat to go into costume stock because it's very durable and it's a style that transcends period. You can see this making sense in the background of a show set in 1910, 1920s, anytime in the 20th century. It wouldn't seem out of place on a character's head. Let's see what else. This is a little straw summer hat. Many of these hats are mid-20th century. It has a label in the back of it that says made expressly for Kutz. What does that say? Yeah, made expressly for K-U-T-Z. Don't know if you can see that. And this is a type of straw that I've heard it called onion skin before because it's shiny and sounds like onion skin, but it's actually, I think it's nylon, cellophane perhaps. I see it most frequently in hats from the 1960s and on. And this little hat has a visor. It's based on a cap. You know, it's riffing on a cap style, a flat cap. And there's a spray of vintage fabric flowers and leaves across here. And it looks like a little bit of some chenille veiling. The chenille veiling is intact, and that's actually maybe the best thing on this hat. I don't love it. Again, cream is not really my thing. But it's intact. It's got some interesting trim on it. It'll probably go into the costume stock at Playmakers. That's interesting. Another mid-century blocked felt hat. And this one is fur felt with a bit of a pile. It's not quite velour, but it's a type of felt that I haven't seen a hat body sold with this finish on it in a while. It's a little brown hat, and it has this, what is it, little oak leaves? Or maybe little flower blossoms. Yeah, it's little flower blossoms that go along the front of the hat. It reminds me of one of my students who did a project where they investigated different kinds of felt trims that you can make from the offcuts from after you block a hat, where you use the same felt, much like has been done here, to create shapes that you then attach on and become trims. Well, we had another hat like that in this batch as well, this cream one that had the leaves along the side band that are cut from the felt. So those two are sort of, that one and this brown one are sort of two of a kind, aesthetically speaking, in terms of the millinery design. I'm going to take this off of the table because I'm running out of space for the hats that are in it, and sort of put it here beside me, maybe. Oh, that's nice. This is a spiral straw made with really, really narrow straw braid, but it's not very elaborate in its shape, you know. It's just sort of this crushed pancake of a hat, and it has these silk flowers, like pseudo orange blossoms around the front of it. It has some completely deteriorated navy veiling that I would want to take off of it. Oh, the veiling has some dangle downs here at the back. That makes me think that that veiling is not original to the hat, because that's a dubious choice. There's a little tiny velvet ribbon here at the back. I'm not going to put this one on my head because that veiling is like really gross. Oh, there's a label in it. An Austell fashion, A-U-S-T-E-L-L-E, registered trademark. And there's also a label in there, in the back there, for the Milliners Union that used to exist and doesn't, because there's just not enough demand for people to be making hats on a factory level now. Aw, this poor hat is smushed. I blocked this hat, so I'm not sure how it came into Candy's possession. Maybe I gave it to her. This is blocked on the same block as the green straw hat from my studio stream a few weeks ago that I was contemplating finishing for the Crepe Myrtle Festival charity auction, and I decided not to finish it. I did a series of hand-dyed parasisal straw hat bodies, all blocked on this same miniature Victorian riding hat style. It's a block that we have at Playmakers. I dyed these 3 hat bodies, red, green, and blue, and was going to do a collection of hats, and I got far enough to put the wire in the brim and finish off the brim edge. And so I wonder what the circumstance is that Candy wound up with this hat and then has donated it back to me. Maybe I'll finish it in one of my open studio streams. Oh, at one time, this was a really high quality straw hat body. But sadly, you see that giant hole there. It's damaged probably beyond repair, unless we needed it for a character who was supposed to have a completely battered hat. There's all of these crushed silk flowers that seem to be maybe 1960s. As with everything else, some gross deteriorated veiling. But inside, there's a label that says Palmer Hats, 5th Avenue, New York. Genuine Panama straw. See, I told you it was a really nice quality straw that this hat was made from. That's really sad that it's been wrecked. Ecuadorian straw hat bodies are really expensive and really beautiful. So I expect, because I know due to the label inside of it that this is actual Tokyo straw, which is what a Panama hat body is woven from, I suspect that what will happen to this hat is that I'll take it apart, salvage any trims that might be used for some other hat project, save all that stuff, and then cut up this damaged hat body for swatches for my students, because I have them assemble swatch cards in millinery class. So this will probably become Panama straw swatches for future classes of millinery that I teach. Well, that's exciting. I thought it was going to be just ugly, and now I know it can be used. Okay. Wow. This is a lot of hat right here. This is what my first millinery teacher would call a bold choice. This is definitely a mid-1960s hat that is covered in silk flower petals. The construction of it is interesting because you see that blocking mesh here that this is made from. The edge is wired and covered in a bias of orange velvet. Yeah, there's no way to make this look sophisticated. But it's in remarkably good condition for the type of hat that it is, and it is a very specific aesthetic, and it can get crushed and refreshed really easily with this type of foundation. It's actually in great condition for what it is, and we might use it. So from a theatrical standpoint, this is an excellent hat for donation to go right into the stock from which we pull for our shows. We're almost done. There's only a few more. Well, this is a weird one. It's a little halo, open crown, with this spaghetti tubes of organza that are arranged into this weird little bow on the back of it. Now there's an interior wired circle here that I think, if I could refresh the shape of this, I think that interior wired circle was meant to rest on the crown of your head while the rest of this sort of bubbled up. It's got some veiling that is actually fairly intact that matches the fabric covering. It feels like it's buckram. I don't have the right hair for this one because you'd want some kind of updo happening. So this, I can't really show you this very well because I would need to steam it out and reblock it. It's got some holes, so it might not be able to be restored, but it's several velvet pompons and bows mounted on a piece of black veiling. This style of head ornament, I guess, came into popularity in the 1950s, and it was called a whimsy because it was really just a piece of veiling that you dressed onto the front of your face and put the little ornaments into your hair with hairpins. We have a whole container of these at Playmakers in all different colors, so this will probably go into the whimsy stock. All right, there's only one thing left in here. It may be a bridal hat. It's got some cream veiling on it. It's got a lot of those same silk flower petals like in the orange hat. It's an interesting shape that is designed to sit on an updo like this. So you twist your hair up in the back and pile it up underneath this thing so it would sit like this. It looks like the majority of the frame in here is buckram, and then there's some open mesh in the center here. This is another one where the wire reinforcement of the frame has been covered in a velvet bias strip as opposed to French elastic. It's not a bad example of this style of hat, but it's also not got any kind of maker's mark in it or union label. So I don't know who made this, but it wasn't a union milliner, and it wasn't somebody who needed to brand it because they didn't even line the interior, which kind of makes me wonder if it's something that someone made to wear in their own wedding or a relative or friend's wedding. Yep, that's everything. So that's the end of our donation unboxing. I think from a institutional perspective, this is an excellent donation, and it's an excellent representative example of a donation where we received some supplies and equipment that fantastic, we'll definitely use it, and a large collection of vintage hats. Some are excellent examples of their period, some are not in the best condition, and I don't make these decisions, but I expect what will happen is a certain number of these hats will go into our costume collection to be borrowed and rented and pulled for our own shows. Some of them will be donated to other nonprofits in the area. None of them are in such poor condition that they should just go in the garbage. Thank you for joining me again for this special episode of Unboxing Hat Boxes, in which we unboxed not a hat box, but a costume donation. I hope you'll join me for the next video upload and drop by sometime on Thursday for the Open Studio stream at 3 p.m. Eastern Time.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell for notification of new content uploads.